Hello everybody, Brad Johnson here, and I have another exciting video that we're going to be talking about today. And this exciting video is called Earth, the universe's greatest school. Alright, so sit back and relax. We're going to have a lot of great discussion here with this topic. So here we are on this beautiful small planet, surrounded by all these beautiful stars, tucked away around the edge of the Milky Way galaxy, with countless other galaxies that surround us, and throughout the entire universe, with all those countless galaxies, all of those countless stars, the vastness of the universe itself, the planet Earth is the focal point. We are the focal point of the entire cosmos. We are the focal point towards many other races that have helped in bringing humanity into being. Races that we are genetically associated with, races that have helped us to grow, to learn, to nurture ourselves, to become educated, to understand our way of being on this planet and developing ourselves as a culture. Here's some bad continents there for the Earth. But of course, we have one of the most challenging, if not again, the greatest challenge in the entire cosmos of being here on the planet Earth. And the reason why this is indeed the greatest school is the amount of contrast that is contained on the planet. So here's a scale, and here's a scale that can go either way through these incredible bands of contrast. We are on a planet that has such rich history, that has so many cultures, that has so many different languages, that have so many different traditions and so many ways of life. But we've also had a great deal of corruption that has happened upon this planet. And we have had to work off much of the karmic debt with our ancestors, going back thousands and thousands of years. This karmic debt all relates to the idea of temptation. It comes to the idea of seduction. That again, we had ancient beings coming here hundreds of thousands of years ago, offering these kings, these emperors, these rulers wonderful trinkets, gadgets, looking into the future, technological wonders in that way, and posing themselves as gods. Having these beings coming down here with their great majesty, with their impressive garments, dressed like the gods, and therefore seducing many of these kings and emperors and rulers for, in exchange, working together with the earth, working together with humanity, having access to to earth resources that humans were originally the stewards for. And so we gave a little thumbs up, said absolutely, of course you can come down here. You can do all that stuff. I got these riches. I've seen what no other man can see. I am a god among men. And that little king, that little emperor, that little ruler completely sells themselves out, and they become a proxy for these types of beings. Basically trying to encourage that, hey, we're the gods, we helped create you, we're here, we're going to take advantage of the entire planet, but we're going to do it in a very nice way, because you're going to be our proxy, because we can't come down here by ourselves and just take what we want, because humans have been part of Earth's stewardship. We have to seduce the humans. We have to tempt them. We have to make them want us here and have our presence here so we can therefore plunder, we can pillage, we can take what we want, we can take humans off the planet, and we can do experiments on them, and we can now start to work with their DNA. We can go from a 12 DNA helix, not sure if that is 12, but pretty close, and then turn it into a double helix. And so we just get manipulated behind the scenes on a genetic level, and this becomes the next generation. Next generation of humans start to incarnate in these bodies on a double helix level. So again, this has all been just a small crumb of the cookie relating to the karmic debt that we are having to pay off right now, here in this modern time, with hundreds of thousands of years of these beings, imposter beings, coming here, posing themselves as the pure gods, right, as the pure creators, thinking that we're the ones that created you, we're the ones that made you into being, so you owe us. We have to do this. Okay, gods will never ever do that. All right, those that were again architects, helping to bring us into being, helping to educate us, helping to work with us, never do something as stupid as this. Okay? This is all just part of fooling an ancient society, a very young race that did not know any better, that they were completely naive, and we would be duped. And so this is what led to religions, this is what led to wars, this is what led to catastrophes, this is what led to disasters, this is what led to brother against brother, sister against sister, family against family, friend against friend, the people versus the rulers, etc. It all turned into chaos. And for, again, thousands and thousands of years, we have been incarnating upon this school, different dimensions, of course, but still incarnating, simultaneous incarnation, upon the different dimensional earths of this school to work together in trying to correct this blight, this stain upon the earth that has gone to a point where corruption reigns supreme. Well, what do we mean where corruption reigns supreme? Well, you know that a system that again is under the rulership of such tyrants will always try to teach you about the negative, about how to distrust, about how to become overly cautious, to look out for number one, to make sure no one screws around with you, etc., etc. We are always being taught of something very aggressive, something very disheartening, something that again is just putting your shields up, having to be on the defensive all the time, being very cautious, overly cautious about who to trust and who to work with, etc. We're bred in this particular type of mentality. Don't go do this, don't do that. If you do this, you're going to get punished. If you do this, you're going to get disciplined. If you do this, here's a harsh consequence. A harsh consequence will come if you don't obey me. Right? It becomes the idea, quite commonly, for families to act as rulers. Right? The parents act as rulers to their children. Children become like these little peasants, these little slaves, these little servants in that way. It's a harsh analogy, but nonetheless it happens in much of the parental relationships in these families, is that they put their children in the idea of thinking that they're down here and I'm way up here. I'm the parent. I'm the head of the house. I'm this, I'm that. And you have to obey me. And so it comes down through that type of rulership, and this is all the philosophy of these imposter gods. We can refer to them as, quote-unquote, the Anunnaki, the Orions, the Draco, etc., right? The Jinn, that too. So there's all different types of parasitical, unnatural philosophies and educations, and even our medicine is also brutal, right? It is not something that is in a harmony, because otherwise, if it was, everybody on this planet would be well. There would be no suffering. There would be no outbreaks of viruses, toxins, contaminants. We'd all be fine if we had a very harmonious medical system. We don't. It's all about having thousands and thousands of dollars for you to pay to get surgery for something that may or may not be corrected, and having to fill yourself with drugs and pharmaceuticals, etc. So we are going through all of this contamination, existing within our politics, existing within our governments, existing within our finances, existing within our education, existing in all of these different branches relating to life, in our own personal families. We have the idea of rulership. We have the idea of servants, slaves, relating to that. And again, this is the greatest school there is, because basically Earth is the most dense planet to come to in the entire cosmos. Was not meant to be this way, of course, but it is, in a way. In a way, it sort of is. But it's the greatest school because there is so much contrast here. Well, why is there so much contrast? It's because of the Earth herself, and it's because of her children, the human beings, right? Earth, as a planet, is closest to God. We, as human beings, are closest to God. And because we are closest to God, we have this full spectrum of contrast to play together with. So again, the only one that's higher up than the human beings is God. We're right under God. We're higher up than the angels. Right? That's how powerful humanity is. Humanity has been given such an incredible contrast of abilities that we can literally be these powerful gods in training, and we can transform the entire planet by working together. But the idea of also having Earth in a third density sphere creates that particular illusion of separation. And that's what disheartens us. Okay? That's another technology. The idea that Earth is so dense and that everything here is so solid, is so physical. That too is a limitation. It's a technological limitation. If you actually go to other planets, you'll find that their frequency domain is much lighter than the Earth's. Okay? The Earth has been bombarded by these frequencies, right? We can look at the moon, and again, getting a lot of these frequency bombardments. And again, even the way that our solar system is configured as well too is all part of a certain form of geometry that relates to interference, that relates to distortion, right? The way that Saturn, once our sun, has therefore been sabotaged, a goddess in chains, violation, brutality in that way, and therefore depicted to be a devourer, a devilish being in that way. But that's not what Saturn is at all, right? We have all of these wars that have happened through our entire star system, and this is all intentional, trying to keep the vibration low, right? Messing around with other planetary systems, messing around with celestial bodies, messing around with the Earth, keeping everything at a very base frequency, so everything becomes solid. And that's a technological aspect. Utilizing the rings of Saturn, like a resonance chamber in that sense, or a sound resonance, frequency, magnifier, the best way to put it, and just having these distorted signals, these distorted frequencies, broadcasting throughout the entire star system. Okay, and of course Saturn's rings are disappearing, but we'll talk about that at another time. I'm going to bring a Jonas in for that in a future video, as we are seeing how Saturn's rings are starting to disappear, and that's a wonderful thing, by the way, too. But again, we're coming back to this planet, and we realize that this is indeed the planet that gets the center of attention. Because when I've talked to thousands and thousands of people over these 11 years, and I'm seeing it happen a lot more now, people are getting really psychically attacked, right? People are going through incredible bombardments of these beings trying to ruin them because they have psychic gifts, because they're very compassionate people, because they're very loving. It's almost like it's made them a target, right? And there's a lot of these beings. Again, you can say, these kind of beings here, Draco, Jinn, parasitic beings, etc. Some of you can call them archons, whatever you want to call them is fine. But all of them have basically had this particular type of agenda in saying that now that we are losing our power, we're going to try and take down as many humans as we can mentally. We're going to enter their space, we're going to put them into an emotional uproar, we're going to make their life a living hell. Okay, and this is what I've noticed with quite a few people who I've talked to recently who are getting constantly psychic attacked. They're being psychic attacked, and again, this is what's making the earth the greatest school. If you are able to pass this school, nothing is impossible in the cosmos. You are in the most difficult school there is. There is no other planet in all of the cosmos that is as difficult to pass than the earth, right? So again, psychic attacks, working together with hostile family members, with hostile friends, or people who are claiming to be friends in that way. The idea of dissolving these systems, these artificial means of, governmental sectors, public sectors, thinking that they are assisting, relating to our way of life, when they're basically just being a gigantic virus upon our people, where nothing is really organic, pertaining to how we use transit, pertaining to how we work together in our governmental affairs, to how we use money. Nothing of that nature is organic. It's all artificial. It's all unnatural stuff. But of course, as we've been seeing the past few years, is things are starting to shake up. Things are starting to break down. And that's a great sign as well, too. But yes, people who are, again, very loving, very compassionate, very wonderful, are getting these bombardments of attacks. Again, I've referred to these people as targeted individuals, right? Gang stalkers, etc. They are constantly under the bombardment of frequencies, or again, of attacks from these terrible, parasitic-looking beings, you could say. They are still having a very, very difficult time trying to figure out what they need to do to overcome this, right? Now, when I talk to some people about these psychic attacks in that sense, and I'm telling them, bring a lot of love energy into that, and they say, yes, I am, I'm bringing a lot of love energy. But there are times where these beings are so tricky, they are so cunning, they are so clever, that they can actually enter your emotional streams. They can actually, it's like the idea that if you have a blast of loving energy coming here, it's like they know how to tuck themselves in the corner to avoid that blast, right? Because they know a love stream is coming through, they're tucking themselves away in the shadows of yourself, right? Now, of course, when you're doing a full embodiment of love energy, and it's feeling like just a cascading of light that's just resonating and radiating directly through you, yeah, they can't really hide from that. But some of them can actually still try and stick around because they're connected to your emotional streams. You see, it's not just about bringing love energy into you. It's about substitution, right? This is what I talk about with the EQ method. Is that you're not just filling yourself with love. You are substituting. You are clearing away hostility. You are clearing away the aspect of the three traumas: abandonment, rejection, abuse. You're clearing away all of these aspects within yourself, and you're substituting it with love. Okay? However, people have a very difficult time doing that because they are so bombarded with the emotional strain that they're going through. They feel they have no break. They can't even take a moment to get to themselves. They can't take a moment to feel like they can just sit down and actually start to bring in loving energy. It feels like they're being bombarded and hit all the time. Okay, so there's a secondary pattern that we have to do when it comes to that. Okay? And I'm going to teach you guys this again because this is part of being upon the greatest school. So let me clear out some of this drawing here. So yes, there is another way that can be done relating to people who are, again, constantly being bombarded by these attacks, by these hits. And what that means is that you're going to have to start working with pure spirit light. Okay? You're going to work together with liaison. You're going to work together with angelic beings in your field. You're going to work together with your highest states of divinity. Okay? So I refer to it as your light states. Okay, angelic, archangelic, seraphim, etc. All these powerful light beings, beings of light that are working within your field, and you're going to borrow energy from them. Right? So what you do is when you're constantly being bombarded within these emotional streams of these psychic attacks, right? Getting really angry, psychic attacks contained in your emotional stream. It's not in your physical stream, right? If it's in your physical stream, that's a pretty easy removal, right? We can remove that. BCR technique can take care of that easily. It's when these entities are so crafty, and this is not easy to do, by the way. These are extremely advanced entities that can actually go into your emotional streams and basically start playing with your emotions, and therefore that'll trigger certain thoughts, feelings, etc. It's nasty. But again, these beings basically stick within your emotional body. They're attached to your emotional body, and you have to work together with your light states. So, here you are in meditation, okay? And you're letting yourself go into these dense emotional states, okay? But before you get into those dense emotional states, you are setting an intention. Okay? Setting an intention to these higher light states, to these beings that are a part of yourself, and you are telling them to completely shower, to completely cascade, to completely fill your entire body with their light. Okay? That's all you're doing. So you're going into meditation, you're just feeling these powerful beings that represent yourself in these higher light states, and they are channeling this pure spirit light energy directly into you for the purpose of clearing out these entity attachments. Okay? So you're just putting a simple intention. In that sense is bond with me. Okay? In a very simplistic way. Okay, you are bonding your pure spirit light with me, with my body. And once we go into that bonding, you may start to feel there are some effects coming in pertaining to that energy. And what you're doing is you're going to go into those emotional states, which means you're going to get angry. Okay, you're going to get sad. You're going to get afraid. And when you're in those streams, where the anger becomes very intense, the sadness becomes very intense, the fear becomes very intense, you're just going to hold your hands out and you're going to tell your team, right, like I've talked about before, having your entourage, your light states, you're going to have your team with you and you're just going to say, blast. Okay? And as soon as it blasts, these entities are out of here. Boom. They're completely out of your emotional states. Okay? So some of you need to do this. Not all of you. When I'm talking about this is actually kind of a rare thing. Okay? That's the good news. It's not very common to people. But this is what you're doing in the event that you're working together with love energy and they're still able to stick around, because again, we're dealing with the emotional stream. We're working with your emotional body all together. And through your emotional body, we are telling your light team, your light states, I'm going to go deeply into this anger, which means I'm going to get angry. Okay? I want to find a personal space for this. I want to be in my space. I want to be taken to the brink of that anger. And then I'm going to tell my team, blast. And it's almost like this powerful flash of spirit light chases out the entities out of the emotional body. Okay? So this is a little bit of an extra thing I wasn't planning on talking about in the Universal's Greatest School, but it's part of your school learning, right? So this is always what I suggest working with together, is substituting conflict with compassion and love, right? Putting that together. BCR technique does that very well. But when it comes to this, and you have very, very deep entities working deeply within your emotional and or mental bodies as well too, all you're doing is you're just drawing out that energy. Okay, you want to make me mad? Go ahead and make me mad. Okay? And you're going to get into that anger, right? And you're going to be very angry, and you're just going to say, blast! Right? and those entities are gone. So it's kind of like a bait and switch type thing. It's kind of like a mousetrap in that way. Do what I can to make a good mousetrap here. Okay, here's the cheese, right? That's you with your emotion. Okay, here's the really bad sneaky mouse. Try and draw him as best as I can. This is an art class, but... and of course, that's the whole idea. Oh, good, he's getting really angry, he's getting upset, he's getting sad, etc. And then they go for it. Blast. Psh, got you. Right? So those entities are now completely flushing out of your body altogether. After that is done, you want to tell your team to keep working in giving you these higher illuminated states, helping you to breathe in the light, working together. You may also want to assign guardians to your emotional body so that these beings cannot come in again. Okay? So you're talking to, again, a higher angel and saying, I want you to look after my emotional body. I want you to look after my light. Right? And if there's any of these particular entities that come through, blast them away. They will bow to you and say, yes, Master, I will do that. Okay? This is like what I've talked about before, working with your entourage. Okay? Working with your team. That's what you're doing here. So that is just an extra thing that I wanted to give you because, hey, we're talking about Earth being the universe's greatest school. So that's one example of how we are helping ourselves to clear away these deep attachments, these emotional states that again are fed on by a lot of these nasty parasitic beings. And like I said, when you start to correct yourself, you start to go into a state of self-correction, you start to advance yourself, you're living a very happy life, you're helping people because you've corrected yourself, you are going to have absolutely no problem with anything else in this universe ever again. When you're coming along, when you're doing so well upon this planet, and you're seeing yourself grow and expand and mature, and you want to help other people as well too, you're connecting deeper to Spirit, you're connecting deeper to God, you're working with your team, you're putting this light energy into yourself, you're becoming aware of the other bodies, you're becoming aware of the state of your mind, you're becoming aware of your emotions. You do all this, you have no problem whatsoever throughout the rest of the cosmos. Okay? This is the hardest place to be. This is the most difficult school there is. It's the greatest school, and it's the most difficult school. So, just keep that in mind. If I'm able to truly surpass my own darkness, to get past my own conflicts, and still discover the love, the light that exists within me, I will have no problem. No problem ever again getting past all this. This is again where Earth has this gigantic stain, and that stain is known throughout the entire universe. This is why we have such masterful beings coming onto our world. Right? This is not a world for amateur souls. Okay? No. No, 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 no. You have to go so high up the ladder to even come into the queue with the Earth. Okay? You have to just fly yourself, move yourself, ascend yourself up into these higher loving states as a pure master. All 8 billion of us to even set foot on this planet. Okay? That's how difficult and how great the Earth is. Right? You have been working many lifetimes just to get a chance to go here. Just to have a chance to go to Earth. Because that's what the Earth wants. I want masterful souls here. I want souls that are so filled with light, so filled with compassion, that they can come here, they can incarnate, they can get through their life, they elevate themselves, and they help others. That's a graduate of the Earth. Okay, it's not just some, weird little astral soul that's coming in and doesn't really have that much experience, won't even make it through the front door of the Earth. Okay? And our frequency's stepping up even more, right? So you have to move up into a higher masterful level. You have to be like this just pure angelic being to even come on this planet and incarnate, right? It's getting higher and higher and higher. The bar is being set higher and higher on different dimensional levels for that entity to come through and pierce through the veil, come through the front door and incarnate. That's the requirement, right? That's why a lot of these beings that are stuck in the astral realm really can't incarnate on Earth again until they get more of their act together. Okay? Basically, I'm talking about the ones that are kind of stuck in between dimensions, where parts of them are basically scattered out altogether. You have to recollect yourself. You got to recollect yourself. You have to go through a state of healing process. You start to refine yourself a lot more, and you can go back again. Absolutely, because there's still things that you have to correct incarnationally as well too. And again, you go through the simultaneous incarnation aspect that I've talked about before. Always on a different dimensional Earth, never on the same Earth, right? Always connected as a network, as a web. But you're going to one of these different dimensional Earths to therefore clean up more of what you've been able to put together within yourself as a spirit, right? You're not going to have the idea of chunks of you spread throughout different dimensional fabrics and thinking that you can incarnate upon the planet again. No. You got to clean yourself up. You got to regather yourself, and then there's some work that you still have to do, right? And that's where you're moving into this different dimensional Earth, and you're cleaning a lot of that up. But you've gotten a lot of help because you have these helpers that are bringing you these other shards of yourself, and you're helping to recollect yourself again. You're helping to refine yourself, and you say, okay, I need to go back down to Earth. I want to take care of something. Maybe I do have an addiction to something. I got to work it out. Maybe I do have something with family problems. I do have to work it out there. And you decide to go back. You always choose to go again. But not on the same Earth, a different Earth every single time. But this is the master school. This is the master university. This is the greatest school in all of creation. That's how powerful the Earth is. That's how powerful we are. And when you get through this planet, when you're able to master yourself, when you're able to work past conflict, when you now make love the way, you're no longer being bred into the idea of feeling that something is so difficult and something is so distorted. You're coming into love energy. Then you're going to, again, excel by leaps and bounds, right? Of course, it's all right to be vulnerable. It's all right to be fragile. It's all right to be hurt, right? Because that's helping you to move forward. I've been hurt, right? I've been hurt just recently, right? But I'm working together with that, helping to heal, helping to go into a state of correction so I can bounce back again. We're all going to get hurt. We're all going to get vulnerable, especially when it comes to people we love, people we have a lot of compassion for. You know, that's going to happen. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to say and admit, I'm hurt right now. All right? I have hurt feelings right now. I need to work on this so I can bounce back. Great. That's a master, right? That's a masterful person. It's a masterful entity. So again, consider yourself fortunate that you are on the most difficult and greatest school in all of creation. And when you pass this through flying colors, you will never experience anything as difficult as this planet ever again for as long as you exist. That's indeed the true reward. Past this, we go into compassion, we go into love, and now all that awaits us now is ecstasy, bliss, divinity, expansion, connection with God. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again in another perspective of the now. Take care.